One, two, three, four.
Listen to this guy. He knows what he's talking about.
Bienvenue, mesdames et messieurs, à Podcast Forever Mighty. Je suis Réjean, ce soir par notre bon ami du Game Over Network, K. Imam. And that is as much as I typed into Google Translate. Hello, everybody. Welcome to a special episode of the Forever Mighty podcast. I am joined today by our good friend K. Imam of the Game Over Network. Hello, Kay.
Hello. I'm so happy to be here. I'm always very excited to talk Habs. It's lots of exciting things to talk about. And lots of exciting things for me to bother you about the Ducks as well. So, hey.
No, nothing comes to mind. Nothing going on in Ducksland, nothing interesting, nothing frustrating, just real
Of course.
normal
Of
business.
course. Of
But
course.
most importantly, I'm just really glad to return the favor. You had me on Game Over Network last season twice. I was fortunate enough to
Mhm.
speak with you about Ducks and Habs, and so I wanted to talk to you going into this season. As I said to you just before we started recording, that I think the Habs are one of the two or three most interesting teams in the league
Mhm.
this year. And I think as I was doing some of the research for the Atlantic preview that Eddie and I will be doing sometime soon, Eddie had some things come up. Eddie is not going to be joining us. I apologize. I should have said that off the top. As you can tell by how
Mhm.
fast I'm talking right now, there are a little bit of nerves because normally we let Eddie run the show and Eddie does all the good stuff, like be a professional. So here we are. Um, but I think the Atlantic is also kind of like the most interesting division. I think there's some interesting things in the Central. I don't think the Metro is all that interesting just because, I mean, the most interesting thing I think about the Metro is Sidney Crosby and Carolina. I
Mm.
don't think there's a ton else there. The Central is fine, but I think, it's just like, can Connor Hellebuck pull a horseshoe out of his ass again and drag that team back into being a legitimate playoff contender, which even when he's been really good, they haven't necessarily been because he's all of a sudden
Mhm.
bad in the playoffs. And then the Pacific sucks. It's a really bad division.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
It's
that is
like
certainly a division that is divisioning.
it, look, it exists and you can't say it doesn't. The NHL made sure that it exists for, I am assuming tax fraud purposes. Um, but I guess, okay, so last season, I guess is the
Mhm.
best place to start. The Habs kind of ha to the best of my memory, they had like
Mhm.
a hot run and then kind of teetered out a little bit for the last, I think it would be like 7 or 8 games of the season, and they kind of limped across the finish line, made it into the playoffs, and then kind of had a competitive-ish series with the Washington Capitals. And I think, again, I'm very curious to know what you think about this, but I think ultimately what
Mhm.
it was is a team of a bunch of guys who have been in the playoffs versus a team of only a couple of guys who have been in the playoffs. And I think the guys
Mhm.
with the most experience, you know, Savard, Matheson, Dvorak, I think has some experience. Like they weren't at a position to really be like aggressive in like helping the Habs take the next step.
Leading the charge, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So how do you feel where we sit today in the middle-ish end of September versus where
Mhm.
you were kind of at when that series wrapped up?
I am, if anything, even more excited. You're right in that this season for the Habs was very interesting.
Hmm.
To start the season, at one point, I remember we were having conversations about, well, here we go again, bottom five pick. Like we were, I think going to the season, a lot of people kind of expected the Habs to pick around 10-ish, around that, give or take. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, and then it was kind of a situation where we went into this season, it was like, "Oh, okay, we should be talking about top 5. Like we should be focusing on that side." And then things just got good all of a sudden. They just decided to play hockey, good hockey, I guess. I think it helped that Lane Hudson had kind of adjusted to the NHL a little. Slav once again kind of started building that momentum that he's the last 2 years he's had in the second half. Um, Nick Suzuki, man, oh, I love Nick Suzuki, and you know that, and I can't wait to talk about him a little bit more in detail. But just to kind of stick to the how I was feeling near the end of last season, I was very excited. I know they only won one game, but it felt like the places they were outmatched were places that weren't necessarily a part of the future. So, the third pairing, the defense third pairing, and I would say kind of some of the bottom six pieces. Now the 2C piece is a piece.
We're gonna get there.
We're gonna get there, but my main point being is I was very hopeful because I felt like the places that they were lacking were places that I feel like either A were places that I feel like help is coming, or B were places that would just not be a non-factor by the time it came to be competitive. Um, and I was pretty happy with what they found, with what the end of the season looked like. And then the summer, they had a very, dare I say it, good summer. I feel like it's taboo to be happy with your GM these days. Oh my God, I just sounded like a kid these days. No, I like it feels a little bit scary to be happy with the GM, but I am. So I'm really hopeful. To give a very long-winded answer, I'm very, very hopeful. I'm feeling really good about this team.
Yeah, I mean, so okay, so Lane Hudson wins the Calder,
Hmm.
and that really was kind of the whole thing about last year, I feel. Because I think, like you said, people were like, they shouldn't necessarily be the worst team in the
Hmm.
division because
Hmm.
Boston is bad. The Bruins are in that, the Sabres are in that division. There's a fair amount of mess at the bottom of that division that you're like, they should be able to kind of work their way up. Um,
Hmm.
Nick Suzuki on his own is just kind of like
Hey, let me stop nodding before you go
he's
talking.
no,
I'll
no,
let you
he's
know.
just I think I have said this to you before, and I think the last time I said it, you got mad at me, but I really do mean it as a compliment. Like, I feel about him the same way I feel about Dylan Larkin, where I'm just like, I want that dude on my team. I just think
Hmm.
he's really good, and I think he does everything well. He clearly fucking cares, and
Yeah.
guys seem to really respond to him.
Hmm.
I mean, I don't know the technical, like where he ranks, but I have to imagine he was one of the youngest captains that the team has ever put in.
Youngest ever.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And like for a storied franchise with so many great players, like that's a thing that makes some sense in the sense of like
Mhm.
this has always had great players in their primes for the most part. And so you can see how the captain would be older by nature, but also like they've had a lot of guys who are really fucking good and none of them were captain that young. So it's a very like exciting thing. And I think, it's interesting to me again, like looking at the Atlantic Division as a whole and seeing where Detroit has struggled,
Hmm.
and then looking at where the Habs are at and being like, the Habs feel further along at this point than Detroit ever did because you've got
Hmm.
Slafkovsky, you've got Cole Caulfield. Then you have two young, really dynamic offensive players who look like they can be really special and potentially compete for awards every year in Demidov and Hudson. There's the whole second line center thing. Hopefully, Ivan Demidov is able to some extent to kind of help alleviate some of that pressure by being such a force in his own end that you can maybe put him with someone a little bit more responsible or just put him with whoever you have and kind of lift the
Hmm.
floor a little bit because he's going to be so dynamic and so creative that he's going to really be able to help get the most out of those guys.
Hmm.
Then you look at the back end, and I know this is a thing you guys are concerned about. You have a really small blue line. And notoriously, everybody feels that it's a really small blue line.
Just across
Um,
the league, everybody thinks it.
I
Many
just,
are saying.
You're hearing it more and more. I polled 200 hockey men, and they said if Lane
Big if true.
Hudson on an apple box is not 6 foot, then the whole blue line is short.
Yeah.
Um, like I personally have goals about goaltending or questions about goaltending. Um, but like overall, I think there's a lot here to be excited about. And then we haven't
Mhm.
even said, I think, the most exciting thing about what happened this summer, which is you guys fucking went out and were able to go get Noah Dobson and just
Yeah.
really plant a flag as a team with fucking goals, like
Hmm.
aspirations, like intention. And
Hmm.
again, like comparing them to Detroit, that's the thing people have been waiting for Detroit to do. And they kind of did that with the Alex DeBrincat trade, and it's had some amount of success. But Alex DeBrincat is not what you guys are hopefully going to be getting in Noah Dobson, which is you're the
Yeah.
guy now. That's you.
Yeah.
And it's going to be you and this guy over here who's on his ELC right now. But because we have you, like I think I talked to you about this when the trade went down, the trickle down effect to
Yes.
Lane Hudson and Reinbacher from just
Yes.
bringing Dobson into that group is huge.
Absolutely.
And so, like, I guess the next kind of question, in a sense, that I want to ask you is just like, where are your main concerns for this team heading into this season?
I'm sure you can guess this one. It's the 2C, the
Hmm.
second line. Uh, all throughout last season, we had the Misfits 2C line, or sorry, the second line, which honestly, if you think about it, I'm gonna go off on a second, just on a tangent. Sorry. You're the one whose podcast this is your podcast, but I'm gonna go off. Because we got into we talked a little bit about the defense group. I think it's a miracle that this team made the playoffs. I know that a bunch of teams around them kind of self-combusted in order for them to make the playoffs, but they had Caden Gooley Nation step up, but Caden Gooley is a big minutes guy. He does a lot for this team. And he was injured in a freak injury near the end of that run. It was it was to the point where I was like, okay, let's say goodbye to the playoff aspirations. Cause now we don't have a 2C. We don't have one of our top two, dare I say it, defensemen at that point at least. So the fact that we were able to make it without the 2C is what makes me so hopeful because we still don't really have an answer at 2C. Now I've decided, for those who might not know a lot about the Habs, kind of that spot is open
First?
for
Oh,
Kirby
open, sure.
Doc. Yes, yeah, it's very open for Kirby Doc to step up and take, but there's concerns there. He's been very injured, unfortunately. Uh, it's just and then when he wasn't injured last season, there was some questionable play there. Um, so the 2C is the big spot. Dare I say it? Maybe a 3C or a 4C, depending on which Jake Evans can fill, because Christian Dvorak, for all of the memes, was a great like face-off guy. Uh, and that's a place the Habs struggle, but that's kind of the nitty gritty of it. The big picture issue for me is 2C and who plays with Demidov, who is going to give that kid a chance to do what he does.
Yeah, and I think the thing that's so interesting about the 2C problem is like I feel that the front office has made two like legitimate good faith efforts to address it. They went out and traded for Kirby Dack, who
Mhm.
I loved coming out of the draft. Like it is beyond heartbreak. And I know I've said this and people are going to be annoyed that I'm saying it again, but whatever. It is beyond heartbreaking to me that to this point, Dylan Cousins has had a better career. A lot of that is
Mhm.
health. I don't think Dylan Cousins is still all that great. Um, but Kirby Dack has really struggled and he hasn't been able to stay healthy. And I think, especially at that age, and then coming into the back end of that Chicago team and then into the kind of early stages of this Montreal team, there's a little bit of pressure there. And so you've got this pressure, you've got this inconsistency in terms of just being able to play, which leads to inconsistency in the play itself. And then you've got Alex Newhook, who is from the Colorado Avalanche and was a player that like it didn't seem quite worked out with Colorado, though like I have questions about like how committed Colorado has been at different times to like developing their young players. You know what I mean? There
Yeah.
is kind of a part of it that's just like, oh, you're not good enough fast enough, so we're moving on. Like the degree to which Sam Girard really helped everybody out by being good right away,
Yeah.
even as his play is kind of up and down since that cup run, was huge. And,
Yeah,
you
absolutely.
know, but Alex Newhook is a smart player. He can play on the wing, he can play in the center. You know, I'm looking at the daily face-off lines right now, and they've got Patrick Laine on the second line, and I just don't think that's going to happen. I
You don't
think
think so?
I, I don't I don't think Kirby Dack has yet shown that he can be consistent enough through the center to get away with
Hmm.
putting Laine and Demidov on the wings.
Sure, fair enough.
I think if you had someone who was even just a little bit more stable, I
Hmm.
think maybe you could try to get away with it. But like by the end of the season, I'm pretty sure Patrick Laine was playing on the third line and he was still managing to score goals. I think he led the league in power play goals last season. Like what his knack is going to be for this team is going to be providing power play points and depth scoring. And I wonder how much Marty St.
Hmm.
Louis is going to trust him to play 17 minutes a night. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Like
Hmm.
I don't I'm just curious about that. If it works and Demidov being as creative and dynamic with the puck on his stick is able to bring out a lot of it from Line A and keep Line A engaged. Because that's kind of been the knock on Line A, right? He kind of floats through
Yeah,
games at certain times. He stops kind of being completely engaged. And the fact remains is his shot is just so good that he
that
can
it
turn
doesn't
it on
matter.
for three seconds, and that 3 seconds
Yeah,
makes all the difference.
yeah.
So I just have questions. I'm not sold he ends up on that second line. He might have to
Fair enough.
start the season there just because like what are you gonna do? Not place, the best shooter on your team, I guess other than Cole Caulfield. And that's kind of an interesting kind of comparison and like who's technically like Cole Caulfield's been phenomenal. Um but they've got those two guys. And so I think it's going to be really interesting. You've got the whole thing with Slafkovsky, and like, I think it would be interesting. And I know Montreal fans seem to be hesitant to this. I think putting Slafkovsky with Demidov would be really an interesting idea.
Hmm.
But I know it's kind of just like that first line is so good, don't touch it.
That's the thing, really. And I would just with Line, one of the things that I'm hopeful about is this seems to be his first full summer where he's been able to train and actually train. Now, you're right. The big knock has always been engagement. Uh, mentally. I would say I'm not going to get into that. But I would say, like he's been in some tough situations. He also hasn't helped himself out. I'm not whatever it is. Um I know it is best shape of my life season. Like
Yeah,
I
for
know
sure.
we're in that season, but it really does seem like he put in a lot of work this summer. I'm not sure how much you were following, but basically there was some Habs guys who were skating together in the summer super early, and Patrick Flannery was one of them who joined that group informally, completely voluntarily, as far as I know. Um, at CBA, it was definitely completely voluntarily. Um, but that engagement is promising. Um, I'm hopeful with Line A, but to kind of go back to the main driver of that, something that Jeff Gorton said at the end of last year and has repeated is that he thinks Ivan Demidov is good enough to drive a line,
Hmm.
that he can be one of those wingers. He didn't give a timeline for that. So that's the big question, right? Like maybe we can get away with the center that's a little inconsistent with the winger, like what we're hoping Demidov can do, right? Um, but also, sorry, I keep going all over the place with the Demidov and Demidov. So I just want to apologize because I'm trying my best to obviously respect what is the correct. But yeah, so that's kind of the big question mark there is I don't think he's ready to drive a line by himself, especially not on a team that aspires to be in the playoffs. But I really want to believe in Kirby Doc. It would be really great because it's great to not have to go out and find a 2C. It's great to not have to do that, you know? Uh,
Where would you
I
find one?
have
There
my
are
eye
none
around the league.
available. There are
I have
none.
my
There's
eye
no one.
around the
There isn't anyone out there in a contentious and protracted contract dispute with their front office that is just weird for everybody. I don't even know where you would go out and find another center. That's crazy.
It's totally
Um,
wild. But yeah, Kirby is at the end of this is his last year of his contract. It's Line's last year of his contract. I believe it's Newhook's last year of his contract too. I could be wrong about that last one.
nope, you're right.
It's a
No, New
very
Hook has one more year left at 2-9.
one more year.
Yeah.
Okay. But I know Line and Doc are in their
Hmm.
last years. And that's a big question mark because I know the organization likes Doc a whole lot. I imagine that Line is going to have to do quite a little bit more to show that he's committed and more than the power play goals. Um, but that's an interesting conversation I think we're going to start to have that I don't think Habs fans are quite clocking yet. Uh, so that's a separate but also similar conversation because that's going to be a second line situation.
Yeah, and I think, to Liney's defense, because, he's a player that like me and Eddie have talked about openly for years now, of just like, can we please go get that other Finnish goal scorer from Winnipeg? Like, can we bring him here? And
Yeah,
then he leaves Columbus, and we're like, okay, this is a chance. Like, and so that's a player that I've always had a ton of time for. There just are these concerns, like you said, about his ability over the
100%.
course of a game to stay engaged and things like that. And I think if you want to be an outside pessimist, what you
Hmm.
would say is, well, if Marty St. Louis, who seems to be like an all-time players coach,
Yeah.
can't get him locked in on a night-to-night basis, then who is going to be able to do it? Because he
Hmm.
played for Paul Maurice, he played for John Tortorella, like he's played for different guys. And
Hmm.
he's had success under them, but his success, I know he's struggled a lot with mental health issues. And I think it was anxiety. I think it might have been depression as well. But like he's struggled with some of these issues. And, you know, maybe he just starts to really find himself. And like you said, he's engaged with these guys over the summer. He's really excited about being there. He's excited about the opportunity and about being on this big come up. And maybe the personalities just mesh well in a better way than they have in the past. And you fucking still have Caulfield, Demidov, and Hudson. He
Hmm.
doesn't have to be the guy. He
Yeah.
can just be good.
Hmm.
And give me one second.
I have a lot of time for Patrick Laine.
But yeah, so like I think there isn't as much pressure on Patrick Laine to be special, right? I think he's far enough removed from his draft year that his draft pedigree doesn't matter anymore. Now it's just like, can you get the most out of the shot that you have because
Hmm.
you are this 6'5" finishing god?
Yeah.
Like you are one of a handful of players that can just beat a goalie face to face straight up. There just
Yeah.
aren't a lot of guys that can do that. And I just think if he doesn't get it done in Montreal, people are going, look, Daniel Sprong has had 55 tries to be a real NHL boy, and it never worked. And he's not even close to as good as this guy. Like,
Worse people have gotten more opportunities.
exactly. Um, some of them are getting them very, very soon from teams we all used
Yep.
to like. But that's
Yep.
fine. We can talk about that another time. Um, I do, man. So like, obviously, we have to talk about Arbor, who I adore, and who is a
Yeah.
giant human being with a soul patch. And I can't get past how
So
funny
big.
it is that he has a soul patch. He's so big. I like was laughing to myself when that comment about your guys' blue line being small. And
Hmm.
somebody like ran out like how big everybody is. And first of all,
Yeah.
it's very funny to me to see them try to like I get that you have to do it, but it's really funny to watch people pretend Lane Hudson is 5'10".
I watched
Lane
it happen with Cole Caulfield. I'm used
I
to it.
I'm not sure Lane Hudson is 5'10" in like Spice Girls platform heels. You know what I mean? Like I and we talked about this on Game Over. There are defensemen who have been very special around the same size as he is, right? And it's going to be about his ability to fill out a little bit more, but to just be smarter than everybody and use his
Mhm.
incredible skating and his incredible hockey brain to make the most of it. And he looks like he's on his way to doing that. And I think, like, look, you're not going to put him out there on the penalty kill. You don't have to do
No.
that. We can be adults and say he doesn't need to play on the penalty
Yeah.
kill, and it doesn't diminish who he is as a player.
Hmm.
You've got Gooley,
It's
you've
okay.
got Xhekaj, you've got Carrier, you've got Reinbacher. Like you are gonna have bodies on the back end that can play
Hmm.
those penalty kill minutes and move guys out of the way. And you can just go, yes, you sweet tiny child, please go run the power play and
Yeah.
make all the magic happen.
Yeah.
I
Just quick interruption.
no, please, please,
Uh,
please.
I'm very encouraged by the fact that Lane Hudson, I would say last year looked approximately 12 years old. This year, coming into camp, I would say he looks about 15.
See,
So
this
we're
is what
grown.
we
We're
love.
working. We're
He's got
working.
the little peach fuzz going on.
I
It's
swear
cool.
the jaw is getting square, and I'm like, you're actually not supposed to because you are past that age, but whatever. I'm happy with it. Like we're fine.
Yeah. Well, it's so funny to watch these guys like develop from like
Hmm.
teenage kids to
Hmm.
like people, like young men, right? Like not to get too like YA about it, but like you like watch them become dudes and you're like, "Oh, you're a
Yeah.
dude now."
Hmm.
And it's just crazy to see. And so I
It's Slafkovsky's fourth year in the league.
yeah, I don't
So this season, it's insane.
and I don't think Shane Wright's played 4 games. So I think you guys made the right call there. Um I hope he turns it around just because he seems like a good enough kid. And I always root for guys to succeed, almost always root for
Yeah.
guys to succeed.
Yeah.
Um, but like so I have kind of two things I want to talk about that are very kind of which of these are the issue.
Hmm.
So you guys have it looks, as I understand it, like your guys' goaltending tandem is going to be Montembeault and Dobish. And
Yes,
Dobish
correct.
is fairly young,
Hmm.
and Montembeault, I think, is in like his late 20s, he's like 28-ish. And let me double
That's a
check
great
that. I have
question.
the roster right
I'm
in
also.
front of me. 28, yeah. So he was 28 last
Yeah.
season, so he'll be like 28, 29 this year. And then you've got the college kid, Fowler, right?
Hmm.
Who's playing, I think, at BU. Um,
No, he's playing. Now he is going to play in the HL. This
oh,
he played a
okay.
bit in the HL last year, and
Okay.
he's
So
going to
he's
do his
he's made the
entire.
jump to
Yeah.
pros.
He is correct.
Okay, okay. Wow, God, Scott is going to be even worse this year. Um, so the goaltending thing is really interesting to me
Hmm.
because it's kind of intricately linked with the other question that I have. And please don't get mad at me when I say this. I know everybody loves him and he seems like a good guy and a good coach.
Hmm.
But are we at the point where this defense shit has to start getting figured out where Martin St. Louis is going to be in trouble? Because, you know, 27th in goals for percentage, 27 in expected goals for percentage. Like
Yeah.
it's it's right on the line. And yet I don't, let me look. I have it right here. Okay, well, my thing's being weird, but like the save percentage, I don't think was bad last year. No, save percentage was, oh no, 26. Yeah, it was bad. And so like I just um well I something else I was thinking of. It's fine. Whatever. Nobody cares. Nobody takes me seriously. I just like if if goaltending continues to be an issue, I guess my question is how much
Mhm.
patience are Hughes and Gorton actually going to have? And do we see them get aggressive and go get a goalie? Do we see them look to make some kind of coaching change? Like he's not a guy I think of fondly, but I think I have to be a little bit nicer to him. Like Peter DeBoer is out there. Like he's just hanging out, just unemployed, collecting a
Yeah.
paycheck. Like
Yeah.
there are a couple of guys out there. You, I don't think you guys would hire Tortorella. I don't think you would hire Laviolette per se, but like there are guys out there that like you could go and get in theory if you're like, we gotta fucking shut
Mhm.
this down. We can't play all-star game hockey all the time because it's just not gonna work.
Mhm.
And you know, part of that is like the defense core is young and still learning. And like I had this conversation with some of the people in the former SB Nation for hockey fans Slack chat about them, which is like
Mhm.
all of your vets weren't very good, and all of your like all of your good guys were really young. And like
Yeah.
I'm I'm very like old school in this. It's really hard to be
Mhm.
good at defense when you're 22 and you've only played
Yeah.
150 games. Like it's
Yeah.
just so hard. Gooley has more time. Carrier coming in is a big help.
Big help.
Um,
Big help.
Struble, you know what I mean? Like there are guys like on that back end that like you can project that these guys are going to be solid defensive guys, and it's just how much patience are we going to have for get there, and how much help are you asking the coaching staff and the system to give them?
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, that's a big question. Let me start by saying I don't think Marty is in any danger of losing his job
Okay.
soon, anytime soon. Just because I think that like this team is ahead of schedule. And I think they're young enough right now. They haven't done the Carolina thing of failing all the time, always. Sorry, I just had to take a dig at them, as we know. Uh, but like they're not, I think Marty, even if the leash was getting any tighter, which I don't believe it was, but even if it had, he bought himself some more time with that
Mhm.
with that playoff run.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, Second of all, I think there's no denying that this team was rough defensively at some points. You know, let me just check really quickly. Montebo last year had a save percentage of 902 and goals against average of 2.82. Not the best, right? We can
Right.
all acknowledge that. But I think that this team is in a place where yes, you need to see improvement, especially with the upgrades that there are on defense now. And I'm not only talking about Noah Dobson, but I'm talking about the upgrade via like addition via subtraction. Which love David Savard, but that guy was not at this point in his career, he was, as the kids say, cooked, right?
Right.
Like it was not he was not ready to play NHL hockey at that point. Um, so there's that, you have Dobson now, you have Hudson going to his second year. Uh I and again, I'm a big Caden Gooley girl, and I will always say that I think that he is a big part of this defense that is not I think this top four is looking good, and it would not look nearly as good if you did not have a defensive guy like Caden Gooley around.
Hmm.
So I think he's getting better and better every year. People always talk about him being injury prone, but last year it was a freak injury of like a skate cut, and he had no structural issues whatsoever. So like we can throw that in the trash unless you want to call a skate blade injury prone. Like I wouldn't. Um, so I think that there's a lot of room to grow in this defensive group. I do wonder if at some point, and I again don't think that point will be anytime soon, but I wonder if at some point they're gonna bring in an assistant that has actual experience.
Yeah.
Because I fear that's the problem with this coaching staff right now. It's not necessarily Marty, it's just Marty and Co. I just don't think that there's enough experience. Now, that's also a hard question and a hard problem to try to tackle because no head coach wants to be assistant coach. Like no one wants to uh uh downgrade. You know what I mean? Like that. But the Montreal Canadiens have a lot of money.
Yeah.
Uh and I would say simply throw money at the problem until it goes away.
No, but see,
Somebody will take it.
that to me, like, okay, this is one of the things to me that, like, I do think, like, you're fucking Montreal.
Yeah.
You have so much money.
Yeah.
There's no reason not to go out and Godfather offer a former head coach and say, can you just fix our defensive system?
Yeah.
Like, there's no, like, it's a salary cap league, and given the changes that are going to be in place this season for the way LTIR works, right? Which we saw, by the way, my sincerest apologies. That Carey Price is coming out of retirement allegedly to play for the San Jose Sharks, which is
It's very
God.
sad to
Tyler
hear.
Toffoli is such an asshole. That actually
That was incredibly funny.
makes me like him.
Imagine being like Will Smith and being so
Yeah.
excited
Imagine
for
being like
that
Dylan Celebrini, right? You're
and
just
thinking
like
my team
this.
might actually win some games.
Yeah, you're like this good Canadian kid. You're like, oh yeah, the greatest Canadian goaltender of the last 20 years is actually going to come out of retirement. Like, oh my God, like that's so mean. That actually almost makes me like Tyler Toffoli. But like, so like we've seen that was a contract Montreal was just willing to carry because they could afford to. That was their guy. You want to do right by your guy. And the CBA changes and they got to move on. That's a different, but they've shown a willingness to just flex that financial muscle. And to that end, this is one of those things that like I do think NHL coaching brain and like organizational brain is archaic.
Mhm.
Like it's good to have coordinators, right? Like
Yeah.
this has been like a thing in Anaheim, which is, especially with like Dallas Aikens, right? Where it was like,
Mhm.
well, if he's not coaching special teams, then what is he doing? And it's like he's running the fucking team. It didn't go well.
Mhm.
We can say it didn't go well, but the idea of the coach has to be in charge of everything and you can't be a little bit more managerial and delegate things, I think is insane. But there
I
seems to
agree.
be a sense of that in other than international tournaments you're almost better served going down to the minors and to be a coach in the
Yeah.
minor league than to take an assistant coach sometimes, unless, you're taking one of those fake assistant coach jobs where they're like, we're going to fire this guy in 40 games, so can you just hang out and it's your job?
Yeah.
So, like, I would love to see Montreal do that. I think that would be a really great thing. Go out and just find someone and just be like, just fix the defensive zone. That's all you have to do.
Here's $100,000. Fix it.
Yeah.
Like it's
Oh, here's $5 million.
yeah, more like it.
Fix the fucking problem. Like, Marty is in charge of you. He is your boss. But we are giving
Mhm.
you the responsibility to fix the defensive zone coverage because we think that this team can be special. And the faster we get this circuit, like I'm looking at it right now, according to Evolving Wild, at even strength, Sam Montembeault still had 16 goals saved above expected. He's right after Lucas Dostal, just ahead of Joseph Wall and Darcy Kemper. Like, he was good. He was third at all situations. He had 30 goals
He's
saved
a
above
very good
expected.
goalie.
I have to be honest, I didn't think he was that good last year, and the numbers say otherwise.
Most people don't. Most people don't. And I think that's where the numbers with the capital N come in,
Yeah.
right? Um, I think that's actually a conversation I've had repeatedly with a lot of people who, are I'm their token Habs fan friend, and they'll ask me questions about it. And I think I've realized just how many people don't have a good idea of the goalie that Sam Montembeault is. Um, so I don't think the goalie is the problem. Now, Sam does have this issue where he will occasionally just let in a floating puck from the blue line, and it's like, Monty, why? Like, why are we doing this? Every good goalie seems to like let in the shittiest goal sometimes,
Yeah,
so it's whatever. Uh, but it'd
it's
be nice if there was a
impossible not to.
defenseman. Yeah, it'd be nice if there was like a defenseman just there to block it or something.
Yeah,
So yeah, I do think that there needs to be improvement. Don't get me wrong, but last year was the first year that like Marty actually had a tighter leash on guys. He scratched Arbor guy when he needed to, despite that being a very beloved player. Um, he cut down David Savard's minutes, which like sounds like a yeah, of course he would. But you know NHL coaches, like
yeah.
they love their guys, the older dudes, right? Like I think that there was a very important place for David Savard. Let me just be very clear about that. I just don't know if he was serving it very well on ice. I do think is very important for him to be in that room.
Yeah, and by all
That's a side note.
accounts, David Savard and Mike Matheson struggled at times last year playing defense. Like I think David Savard's body was really letting him down by the end of the year.
Yeah.
They're still good guys. I haven't heard anything about
Hmm.
their jerks or their wearing
Hmm.
on the young guys or anything like that. And like you said, like, Marty, fucking 20-year veteran or whatever it was in the league, like he knows the importance of having those guys around. He knows we all know coaches sometimes will just lean too much on veterans in high leverage situations. And it's a thing that I understand. Like last year with Anaheim, there were times where Greg Cronin would just send out Brian Dumoulin and Jacob
Your favorite
Trouba,
coach
my
in the
favorite
world.
in the entire world. He's my beautiful boy, and I love all four hairs on his
Not
head.
an evil person.
Oh, man,
Not an evil person.
he's just like an evil person. And but like
So
he would just send out Brian Dumoulin and Jacob Trouba, and fans would get very
yeah,
frustrated because Jacob Trouba, there's wear and tear there. He's not quite as good as he was. He's also not, despite his physicality, he's not really a
mhm.
defense first guy. Brian Dumoulin is
Which is a
steady.
very funny bit he does. That's a very funny bit to do
I
as a
look,
guy.
I think, look, here's what I will say. He doesn't have the shot, but in terms of I will kill you or I will contribute on offense, there's like Sheldon
Yeah.
Sore vibes, which I personally love. But
I thought you were about to say Shea Weber, and I was gonna actually
no,
fight
we
you.
don't talk about him. We don't talk about him. That's
We
Nashville
try
Predator.
not something we need to talk about between the
No, we
two of
don't
us.
we don't need to do that. But like there's something to being like if I put these guys out there, I know what I'm gonna get for good and for bad. I know what I'm gonna get. With these young guys, anything could happen.
Yeah.
And that's not like the most exciting way of thinking about it. But if your job is to win hockey games and you're trying to limit the number of possible outcomes in any given moment, I understand why if these guys get beat, I know what it's going to look like is better than anything could happen right now.
Yeah.
And in high leverage situations at the end of the games, things like that. So I, I'm I think that'll be talking about it with you, I think that's going to be a really big part of this season for Montreal is how quickly is St. Louis going to be able to find a pair that he trusts to put out there with a 3-2 lead, right? Or
Mhm.
even just a
Mhm.
one goal lead. But you know what I mean? Like one goal, 5 minutes left, 3 minutes left, 2 minutes left. Like, can I just send out, Carrier and Goulet? Because I think Carrier is a righty.
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
can I just send them out there and this is going to be okay? You know, you've got Struble, you've got Xhekaj, you still are going to have Matheson. Like, where is he going to be able to find these guys and really trust them? And, again, they're speaking of evil people for all the right reasons of being evil. I think about the Chicago Blackhawks a lot. And
Yeah.
when they were great, I think one of the reasons that they were great that doesn't get enough credit is they had Nicholas Hjalmarsson as their third defenseman. And he was just like, I'm just going to be on the second pair. I'm going to play 20 minutes a night. I am going to shut down whoever they put on with me. And you know that if you can't put out Seabrook and Keith, I'm right here. I got you.
Yeah.
And that is
Yeah.
such a valuable thing that I think if Gooley can develop into that kind of just that's my second pair guy. And it's just him
Yeah.
on the second pair no matter what.
Hmm.
Maybe because of Dobson, he plays higher in the lineup and he's playing on the first pair because he's like kind of a natural complement to that. And then you've got somebody to play. Because I think we talked
There's
about this
actually something
last.
very interesting happening there. I don't know if you've necessarily seen it, but what has happened so far is Hudson and Gooley have been put together, and which is a pairing that did also played in the playoffs together, and it seemed to work out. Um, excuse me. Uh, but the Noah Dobson pairing is with Mike Matheson, and
Interesting.
Mike Matheson has, dare I say it, become strangely defensively responsible.
Hmm.
Um, he's a mixed bag, though. Let's be completely clear about that. He's a mixed bag.
What's the Locked On Canadians joke? Magic Mike to Tragic Mike?
Yes,
Yeah, that's so
the
funny to
scale.
me. I think that's such a great, but yeah, and I think having a guy like Dobson
Laura
for
and
him to play
Ian.
with is perfect.
That's an interesting pairing because like we don't really know what we have in Dobson. Bigger guy than I expected, by the way.
Hmm.
I didn't realize how big that dude is. So that's something. Notoriously small blue line,
Right.
as we all know. So yeah, I think ideally what this team wants the blue line to look in, the top two pairings to look ideally what this team wants out of their top two pairings in the time that they're actually competitive. I think they want some mix of Reinbacher, Hudson, Gooley, and Dobson.
Hmm.
I think those are the four guys that they are really trying to count on. Now, while Reinbacher develops, and he is a question mark, obviously, as all prospects are, seems like it's a good bet. I don't know if it's a first pairing bet or a second pairing bet. I'll let people who actually watch the AHL regularly talk about that because I don't. So Scott Matla, hit us up. Um, but yeah, so I think that's what they're looking for. This season, it's going to be interesting. Nobody was expecting the Hudson Gooley pairing. I think all of us were going, yep, Dobson Gooley, and Matheson Hudson.
Hmm.
Because again, Matheson became strangely good defensively and responsible defensively when paired with Lane Hudson. So Mike Matheson seems to be developing? Question mark. Mike Matheson's a really interesting player, but who knows if we'll even have him by the end of the year. There's so many question marks on this defense, and I am so excited about them. Like I am. This is all such. There's so much, and I'm so excited. I don't mean to dunk on you, but I'm really excited about my rebuilding team, Steven.
No, it's it's so funny because like I think the reason like for Matheson why playing with Hudson is good is like you know what Hudson's job is, and your job is everything else.
Yeah.
And so, like, Mike Matheson doesn't have to worry about pushing play or carrying the. No, man, that's the little homie. He's gonna just take care of that for us.
Yeah.
That's his
Yeah.
job, is to just get on
Yeah.
his horse, get the puck, get it 200 feet up the ice, and then make some crazy shit happen in the other end. All I gotta do is just try not to get beat in my own zone.
Yeah.
And, I'm sure there will be a lot of like shots throughout the season of Mike Matheson looking at him and being like, don't do that. Knock it off. But it's going to be in service of Hudson developing into the hopefully star blue liner he looks like he has the potential to be. And it's just, okay, here's the thing. This is what we're going to do because now the next thing that we need to talk about is if the second line center thing continues to plague this team, are you guys going to just suck it up and trade for Sidney Crosby? Or are you going to hurt my personal feelings and offer sheet my center, which hopefully is not a thing that we have to worry about because that will be wrapped up soon and he will have a nice 7-year deal with a nice big number and we'll be done. But if this goes contentious, we saw the way it happened with Trevor Zegras. Fucking don't want to deal with any of that right now. But like, do you think it serves them better to go out and take that kind of a big swing on Sidney Crosby, or do you think it's better to just ride it out all year and hope you can get somebody again in the off season?
First of all, it was very funny watching you do cognitive behavioral therapy on yourself just for a second there. But second of all, uh,
Can I
I
start
for the
keeping my
first
copay?
time, maybe, um, I for the first time in my actual life, unironically believe that Sidney Crosby could possibly become a Montreal Canadian,
Hmm.
and that is a very exciting possibility.
Hmm.
Um, but at the same time, I don't think that's something you can rely on. Uh, it's a very if all the if everything happens right moment. Um, so let's say there's a young center out there who is available and, possibly can be tempted. And maybe we'll average out the how old this team looks in terms of we have Lane Hudson looking like a child, and there maybe is a center out there who looks a lot older, but like in a funny way.
Hmm.
Um, neither here nor there. I think that this team, according to what Kent Hughes and Jeff Gorton have said, I think this team wants to make their big swing this coming summer. Um, but if there's something available, it's very hard to turn your nose up at it.
Hmm.
Um, I really do think that like it's like a I don't know, man, it depends kind of moment where it's like this is
Right.
such a it really just I think is one thing about a younger center that I worry about personally is it blocking a potential something, someone who looks like something in Michael Hague, right? A, is that something? I don't think that's as big of an issue because you really shouldn't worry about that. But like,
Hmm.
let's say, right? I'm not signing a good 2C because he might block a prospect that we don't know about
Hmm.
yet. But that's something that people can think about if they want. Um, and the second thing is just the youth of it. I This team is in a weird spot where I don't know if they should try to like I don't love the idea of them getting younger. Again, all of this to say is like you do not give up an opportunity that's served on a silver platter, right?
Right.
Which is not the situation yet. Sorry, Steven, but it's not yet.
Right. Right. Right.
Um, so I just think that that's such a like long-winded answer, but like it really just depends. And I know some people have been like, yo, what if it was Bo Horvat that we got? Which I'd love, but like
Hmm.
it's all these possibilities that we have, and I just really worry about having too much of a young guy there, especially with Demidov playing there, and whoever else is on that line. Um, I really just that's why they get paid the big bucks, is what I'll say. That's why they get paid the big bucks to decide if that's a risk that they want to take. Because there's just a lot of aspects there. The youth of this team, I think, is something that the front office does think about. I don't know how big of a factor it is. I would bet that it is something they factor in.
Yeah, it's just so interesting because like, this might be a player you're unfamiliar with. But like Nazem Kadri's out there. And
Super
uh
unfamiliar with him.
yeah, I don't think you know who that is. But like Nazem Kadri's out there. Like I don't think Calgary's actually any good. So if they start out slow, do they look to move? Bo Horvat's a really interesting person. I think, maybe Elias Lindholm is an interesting name because you have Suzuki. That's the hard part, right? You have the guy that you're going to put in the center. And if you can go out and get Sidney Crosby,
Mhm.
like I joked about this to piss you guys off, but I'm also serious. Like if you have to put David Reinbacher in that trade, I think you have to
Mhm.
make that trade. because I like David Reinbacher a lot. I think he projects to be a meaningful NHLer.
Mhm.
And again, like we talked about, the trickle down from having Dobson and Hudson is just so significant to what you even expect of him.
Yeah.
You also now are in a position where you can use him to address something like go get a fucking Sidney Crosby, who's the best hockey player of the last 20 years. Like,
Hmm.
it's one of those things for me that I tease some of the Habs fans in the chat, like, do you guys want to win a fucking cup or not? Like, I know
Yeah.
Demidov is a bridge too far, right? Like,
Mhm.
I get that, like, you aren't gonna have to give up Demidov because in order for that trade to happen, Crosby has to say this is what I want. And if he does that, then like Pittsburgh is gonna have to like respect that and like move him somewhere he wants to be, which brings the price down. And so you end up with like the third best prospect, which is like Reinbacher, right? And you're not gonna have to lose Demidov. It's something like that. But like what happens with Slafkovsky? I don't think you have to give up Slafkovsky. I don't think that that's where that goes. But like Reinbacher and a pick and something else and something, Dobish or Fowler or one of these young, like again, you're adding Sidney Crosby and the number of teams that can add Sidney Crosby and compete right away is like 25 teams. Like
Yeah.
he's that good, and there's already such a significant infrastructure in Montreal that it's just such a tempting um it's just such a tempting prospect.
I agree. Uh, Also remind me before we end, I do also want to talk about Slafkovsky a little bit, but that's a separate conversation. I don't want to get into that right now. I want to talk about Sidney Crosby because, again, I actually realistically think for the first time in my life that there is a possibility. Um, I think Sidney Crosby is loyal enough to Pittsburgh that he would not necessarily block them from a trade that could be good for them.
Hmm.
Um, in my opinion, he would try to find a compromise in that he would find a team that has assets to give that would help Pittsburgh, but also is one that he can stand to go to, aka one that isn't losing for the back half of his career, right?
Hmm.
I think the Habs fit that bill very well. They have a lot that they could give, and they also have some great potential. I think you put Sidney Crosby on this team. Like you said, so many teams would just become instantly competitive. I think you put Sidney Crosby on this team. I it's a good situation. Is all I'm
Yeah,
gonna say.
it's
I don't.
it's a
I
great
It's a
situation.
great situation, and I. But like you said, you're gonna have to give up something, and it's gonna be something that stings. Uh, but at the end of the day, guess what? You have this sweet, sweet, soothing sense.
No, keep going. This is getting worse for you. I think you should keep going. I want to see how you pull out of this. Normally this is me who says silly things like this, so I'm having a great time. You keep going.
The sweet, sweet relief of Sidney Crosby. You have that to soothe it. Um, I think that there's a lot I would give up for Sidney Crosby.
Mhm.
I think it's a bit of a hard situation to even, or sorry, a hard trade to try to picture because the situation in which it happens is a very specific and unique situation. Sidney Crosby's like
Mhm.
what, 30 something,
It's like
36, 30.
37,
Yeah. So he's not young, but at the same time, he's Sidney
38. He
Crosby.
just turned 38.
Yeah, he's 38 years old, which in sports language is like the oldest,
Yep.
closing in on very old man.
Yep.
But he's Sidney Crosby, and he just seems to be able to, obviously not top of the like best player in the world anymore, but
You can do that.
he's not the best player in the world anymore. I will say that, but top, right? Like
Yeah.
still. So it's just such an interesting conversation, such an interesting thing to try to experiment with mentally. But I don't think we're gonna know unless or until it happens what that'll take.
Yeah.
Um, I am of the opinion, and this is a side note, but I'm of the opinion that Colorado will not necessarily be the place that he will go,
They just don't
even
have the
though I think
assets.
they don't have the assets, and I don't think he'd do that to the Penguins.
Right.
I
No,
just
that's the
don't.
thing. It's actually
If he says,
perfect.
if he says he wants to go to Colorado, he's going to Colorado. I don't think he'd say it because I think he, despite everything, loves the Penguins as an organization and
Mhm.
would not want to screw them over.
No, because he's just seems like a fundamentally decent guy, and he's gonna, you know, if it's Colorado, it's Colorado. Basically, just being like, we'll just give you 4 first-round picks over the next 6 years. Like, we'll just
In
give them to you.
2030.
Yeah,
In
exactly.
2030,
Yeah,
they do not have any right now.
they don't have shit. And like, you could talk yourself into like Callum Ritchie or something, but now you can't because they traded for fucking Brock Nelson. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So it's just such a weird spot for them to be in. And I'm really the Sidney Crosby of this season is going to be so interesting. And then you combine that with the McDavid of it all this season. And then you combine it with this really nice changing of the guard, and we've got good young players coming in, and we've got teams on the way down, we've got teams on the way up. Like Connor Bedard is just like over there in Chicago hanging out, and it's just
Just
like,
rotting away.
what's going on over there? It's just such a weird year. And looming over all of it is two genuinely generational players who could be on a different team at any point. And that's
Yep.
insane.
It's truly wild. It's going to be a wild season. And I think it might actually be a wild season. Everybody's always like, it's going to be a wild
And then
deadline,
nothing
and then nothing
happens. Yeah.
happens. I genuinely think there's a chance of some fireworks going off at
Yeah.
this year. Possibly this trade deadline, depending on how Pittsburgh starts off. Um, I'm just really, again, it all comes down to the fact that I think the world is the Habs oyster right now. Like, I
Hmm.
really do. I think they're starting to become a bit of a destination. I think players love Marty. We can talk all we want about strategy, but they love Marty.
I think that all makes a lot of sense. I think it's impossible to know what a trade like that looks like because trades like that don't happen, right? Like,
Mhm.
it's not going to be what he's actually worth.
Yep.
It's not going to be nothing, right? Because again, like you mentioned, like he's not going to want to leave Pittsburgh in the lurch, and Montreal isn't going to want to screw the whole thing up in service of adding him. And
Mhm.
like he's not going to want to fuck over Pittsburgh, and he's also not going to want a team to fuck itself up to add him. And
Mhm.
it's just that weird
Because that
balance.
means the team won't be as competitive, and
Exactly.
he's
No,
like, it's
exactly.
a
And it's
really, it's a
what's the
whole,
point?
yeah. Also, he's for just a side note, by the way,
Please.
if Sidney Crosby ever becomes a Hab, it will be a problem for the rest of the league on many levels, but one of them will be that you will have taught Habs fans that resiliency and constantly going for it works. Like, it is going to be a nightmare. None of your superstars are safe from our greedy, greedy eyes. We're gonna
You
be
know,
so annoying about it.
it is kind of like when Toronto got Tavares and they're like, see, it totally works. And you're like, that was one time.
We're just
Um,
gonna be the worst. So, hey, here's to hoping.
here's the hoping. Yeah, man. It sucks, but like I really am at the point with this McTavish thing, and it sucks. I really do resent you guys
I don't know
because
what's
there's like
happening.
5 or 6 of you, and I just absolutely adore you all. And it has completely ruined what was like a genuine little ball of hatred for Montreal in my little cold, dead heart. And I was like, oh, I can just hate Montreal. This is great. And now I have friends there, and I'm just like, oh, I think I would get like a Zegras jersey, or I'd get a
Yeah.
McTavish jersey. Like I'm already like, if John Gibson wins the Vezina in Detroit, am I getting a Detroit Gibson jersey? Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
If he wins the Vezina, I think I'm getting one. Especially with how sweet that new Centennial jersey looks for them.
It looks
Ooh,
really good. I do not wish the Detroit Red Wings on anybody. That's a lie. I wish them on my enemies.
sure, sure,
Of
sure.
course I do. Of course I do. Sorry, just remembered
No,
I'm a
no,
hater for a second there.
no, it's good. The hate is good. The hatred is what matters. It's sports. It's not supposed to be about positive emotions. Because those always let you down. But hate's always there
Hey.
for you. So you said you want to talk about your Slafkovsky. And
Yes.
okay, so this is actually again a great little way to kind of tie it back into Anaheim in a sense, because I think you guys fucked it up for everybody because there was a report from Friedman where he mentioned that GMs aren't like colluding, but they've got that kind of 200 hockeyman hive mind right now. And they
Yeah.
are kind of all trying to like really like draw a line in the sand on RFA contracts. I kind of inferred coming out of an ELC.
Mm.
And I personally blame you guys because you give Caulfield
Okay.
a nice deal, Suzuki gets a nice deal, Slafkovsky gets a nice deal. Obviously, you've got the Jack Hugheses and things like that, where you've got these guys who are signing these, max term deals for good money, but ultimately kind of end up being a bargain if these guys hit. And we've talked about this, and I've
If
been
Jack
very,
Hughes can stop his bird bones from bird boning.
my God, he would have like two MVPs right now if he could
And
stay
I
up
understand, by
straight.
the way, I totally get it. I'm like throwing stones from a Kirby dock shaped glass house.
Right.
I understand that, but I'm just being really mean to people who were being really mean about Nick Suzuki. So
No,
just
look,
I have my
I
vendettas that I'm just getting out
I
on
love
every
it. Again,
platform I can.
if this place right here is not a safe place for you to let your hatred out, nothing is. But like it's an interesting thing, and so I do think part of the McTavish thing is Pat Verbeek being like, next year, I've got like five RFAs I have to extend. So I need to keep the McTavish number relatively low because those guys are going to come in either at or around, like around that number. You know what I mean? Like, I think the expectation is Carlson's next deal will be worth more than McTavish's next deal. Then you've got Cutter's deal, who he looked strong in the last few games of that season, right? He came on really strong. I think I saw something from French Ad today who was like through the last 37 games of the season, he was like 10th in 5v5 scoring. Like it's just, so that you've got Minchikov and Zellweger and all these guys in Anaheim who are gonna need these deals. And it's gonna be important to keep those numbers relatively low because what you don't want is to hose yourself and now you can't add talent, anybody you're extending, right? And so I have some level of sympathy for the situation Pat Verbeek finds himself in. That being said, they have $56 million as of right now in cap space for next season. He's gonna be okay. I need him to grow
Work it
up.
out, bud.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like this is your job. I need you to do it. And like I kind of said, like I've been very vocal. I don't think everyone should rush to give ELC guys max length contracts because you don't know what they are yet. I like Juraj Slafkovsky. He looks really good. There's a lot there to like. He's still only hit 50 points twice. What does that mean for him, right? Caulfield seems to be coming good, right? He seems like he's a guy who should be in the Rocket conversation every year. Like he's a legitimate high-end goal scorer. There was some issues, I think, with health for him because of his size. Like 2 years ago, I think he got hurt. Let
I
me.
don't think so, actually.
All right, well, I'm just making shit up again.
Well,
Normal.
you might be right, but I think that that might be the kind of hurt where if it wasn't the season that they were having, aka the worst in franchise history, he might not have stopped. Like he might have
Yeah.
just kept going,
No, 82 last year, 82 the year before that, 46 in 22-23, which would have been a full season. Yeah. So okay, so
which was the year that
he
was
got hurt.
the bad year with a capital T and a capital B
Yeah.
and capital Y too. I can spell.
But like it seems to have worked out really well
Hmm.
for Montreal, and they seem to have gotten it right. And I was talking to somebody like I think Lane Hudson has a new deal before Christmas.
I hope so.
You know what I mean? Like I don't think it's going to matter. Like, I don't see a situation where Lane Hudson looks at them and goes, I want to wait until McCarr gets paid in July 1st to see what we're
Yeah.
talking about here.
Yeah.
I, I, you kind of, and I apologize again, don't get mad at me. You've kind of got the Boston thing here where you just point at Patrice Bergeron or Nick
Yeah.
Suzuki and go, that's the guy. You could either take less to stick around and accept that we
Mhm.
are building a team with a culture and a unit, like a unified group, or you can go fuck off.
Yeah.
And
Hopefully not, but
no, no,
I
but you know
do
what I mean?
think I think the front office does approach the conversations in that kind of way.
Yeah,
There's
and
no internal cap because we can't like they're just we can't. Like Nick Suzuki for a while was and that's why we got Cole and
right.
Slav at the prices that we did. Gooley's on a great contract. Jake Evans, my favorite emotional support, bottom six player,
Mhm.
got on a really good deal. Like we've had some great luck, I think. No, luck is not. I want to give Kent Hughes his flowers here. I think he's done a great job with the contracts. Um, I've been laughing about the Luke Hughes situation, by the way,
It's
because
absurd.
I've been laughing about it, but also I'm a little bit scared that karma's gonna come back and bite me in the ass if the Lane
Yeah.
Hudson deal ends up lingering too. I really hope not. I really, really hope not.
But to your credit, Ken Hughes went out and got the work done. And on top of that, the luck that I would say, because there is a little bit of luck here,
Of
the
course.
luck is those all came up with a flat cap. Those came
Mhm.
up when COVID just completely screwed up the league finances, and it was
Yeah.
like maybe we'll have 50 cents more next year against the salary cap, and we might actually, you might actually have to give us money. And so it really made it really easy to walk into the room and go, you are not the first line center captain of this historic franchise.
Mhm.
We want to pay you. We believe in you. We believe in your talent. We believe in what you are going to help us build. But look at him and look at me
Mhm.
and come on.
Yeah. Yeah.
The cap is accelerating now, right? You've got the
Of
big
course.
deal. I
Yeah.
think the Canadian deal comes up in a couple years and that's going to pump more money in. So there is going to be that weird part where like you could be looking around in a couple years and guys are making equivalent to what Nick Suzuki's making. And you're just like, how is that possible, right? But
Yeah.
if that's what it is, and again, not quite the same level of a thing, but you end up with the Colorado situation of like Nathan McKinnon's making how much money right now?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
everybody else is just kind of making a little extra because he's leaving so much on the table, not through any fault of anybody, just the kind of the way it all worked out.
Just the way it worked out. Yeah.
I want to talk about Slafkovsky, talks about everything else. My
It's all
question,
tied together.
I know. My question with Slafkovsky,
Yes.
is he a legitimate first liner? Is he a traditional top six winger? Can he be the second best guy on a line, or like is it a fit thing? Because I think if you look at him and Caulfield and Suzuki, you're just like these are three players that stylistically all fit together in a very seamless way.
Mhm.
But like I said, I think there is something to exploring the idea of Demidov and Slavkovsky, because then also you do get the murder toddler out there to protect Ivan Demidov.
Yeah.
And I know, it's 2025 and we're not supposed to talk about beating people up or whatever the fuck. Because,
But the league does what the league does.
it's
We
just
saw what the Panthers did.
like, it's
We
just so
all
real. Like, we just have to admit, like, they're gonna push you around. As long as you are allowed to hit people in this league, they're gonna hit guys.
yeah.
And, that's why it's good to have a Jack guy. Like again, going back to the Washington series, the Jack guy of it all was fascinating because it's just like, we got this dude and he can go out there, but like we're also trying to achieve things and we don't want to put him in a position where he has to do things.
Yeah.
We want him to play hockey. We don't want him to just go get into a death match with Tom Wilson every night.
Don't
And
worry, Josh Anderson got him. If nobody got me, I know Josh Anderson got me. That's
shout out
another
to
guy that the
Josh
Capitals
Anderson
need.
and that $5.9 million deal that just never ends. It's never going to go away. that the sun is going to explode and he will still have 2 years left on that contract. But like, what
Yeah.
is Slafkovsky? Like, what do you, for you, like, how do you
My
see him
beloved.
fitting into this? Sure, obviously. I won't tell Caden, but it's fine.
I am a generous woman. Um, but, to talk about stop it. Stop.
Montreal
Stop.
Polycule. Uh,
Me and my favorite player saw you from across the room and we love your vibe. Uh, no, but I'm gonna refer back to one of my Twitter mutuals at Playoff Suzuki, who said, "Truth nuke is that Juraj Slafkovsky is the chemical X that powers the Habs first line," and that is where I stand. I don't think that. First of all, like you said, the pieces are complementary. Yes,
mhm.
it makes sense. I don't think that line works. I'm gonna say this carefully because I know it'll upset people. I think I would rather take Cole Caulfield off that line before I take Juraj Slafkovsky off that
Mm,
line. Now,
interesting.
I'm talking specifically not considering where I would then put those lines.
Sure, sure,
Like
sure.
not considering where what the second would look like, just in terms of comes down to it, I have to choose one guy I need to take off that line. I'm taking off Cole. Cole is an amazing player. He is, like you said, absolutely great shot, great goal scorer, and defensively responsible, very defensively responsible, actually. It's something he grew in his game a lot over Marty's time. And also, I think just growing up, that seemed to coincide. So, hey. But I just think that Slash, and I'm like, I'm really just going off vibes almost. You
For
know what
sure,
I
for
mean?
sure.
Like, it just makes, first of all, don't break up that first line right now. I know a lot of people are like, Demidov, we need to get him on that line. That can wait. He can be on that line later if it comes down to it. The first line just, it's a momentum thing. Also, you don't want to give a guy the first line just right away. I'm sorry. Like, I know that's a little bit of like people are like, oh, that's antiquated thinking or whatever, but like, you don't.
We're doing it. Kay becomes a hockey uncle. It's happening. I'm
Stop
so
it.
happy right now. I'm so happy.
No, sorry, give me a second. I
Kay
just got
becomes a
so
hockey
excited.
uncle. This is my non-actual play storyline of the year is we are going to
I
make Kay a
swear,
hockey uncle. It's going to be
I
awesome.
swear I've become so much of a more hockey uncle since I've become friends with you. So I'm blaming this one on
That's
you.
fine. I will take all the blame here. That works for me.
But I think you make him earn it. Like, and hey, if he earns it, he earns it. He's
For
on
sure.
there. Everybody else suck it up. Whoever gets demoted, simply grow up, right? Like, this is not the kind of culture we're fostering in the room where you
Mhm.
can just pout about it. Um, but I really like Slav up there with Nick. Cole and Nick have this great connection where I think it's a great power play connection. I think obviously again works on a line, but I think it's a great power play connection too. Nick Suzuki's so smart that he can make it work with a lot of different players.
Mhm.
Like God gave him Josh Anderson in a dream at one point, and
Right.
he did his best to make it work, right? And that was before he really grew into the player we know him as now. So and I don't I just really value Slav, and I don't know how many people understand what a big part of the success of this team is and how much him working out for at least a top six player is important to this team, which
Oh, for
seems like a
sure.
stupid thing to say because, like, oh, that's your first overall pick. But, like, I think with the excitement of everybody else, it gets lost in the shuffle a little bit.
Hmm.
Slav, when he is at his best, is so, so good. He's so strong. I think he's low key a shit stirrer in a way that like I don't think people really recognize. I think he's got it. He's got it. And I
Hmm.
really want him to keep the momentum building of this last season. I'm not sure if you saw, you probably didn't, because why would you be watching a preseason game for the Montreal Canadiens? But he got a cut from a blade on his face by Christian Dvorak, actually, of all people,
Oh, wow. Okay.
versus the Flyers. And I'm like, he's got the scars now too. He's got the battle scars now. I'm really excited for that player. Um, I'm not sure if you, again, I don't know why I'm saying this. I know you probably didn't see it because, again, why would you pay? Habs fans are barely paying attention to what I'm paying attention to right now, which is the power play units that Marty's putting together right now.
Mhm.
People thought that Demidov would be put on that first unit right away, and it would make sense to me. But they've now got Laine, Demidov, and Dobson on power play 2, and they've got power play 1 is Slav, Suzuki, Cole, Hudson. There's a wealth here. I think it's a matter of finding the right fits.
Yeah.
I think that's the big word for this season is going to be fit and figuring that out. Because I think it's a legitimately sick power play to have Patrick Laine, Ivan Demidov, Noah Dobson, Brendan Gallagher, question mark, which is a really funny one.
Sure.
He just finds himself there. It's just, I feel like I keep stopping and being like, I'm so excited, but I am so excited. There's just a lot, and there's a lot to talk about, and there's a lot to break down, and there's so much to be excited about. I've never been this excited about this team. I wish Carey Price had a team like this behind him, in front of him.
Yeah.
It would have been really, really cool.
Yeah. No,
It sucks.
one of the things for me that is a modern kind of thinking that I personally struggle with is this idea of you just super load one power play unit and you just play them for a minute and a half, and then whoever's on the second one, they get 20 seconds to figure it out. And I hate it. I hate it so much because I think and maybe it's just from watching Anaheim for so long and seeing what it looks like when there's only really one line that can score and there's really only enough talent for one good power play. I am not a fan of putting all your eggs in one basket, right? And to the point of putting Demidov on the first line, the whole fucking great thing about having Demidov is he can be his own line.
Yeah.
And Suzuki is so smart and so capable that you can have him with Slafkovsky and Cole and generate offense that way, but you trust him to go out there and play tougher minutes against better opponents, and then Demidov can go out there and really try to make magic when that second line. That's the benefit of that. And again, you've got Hudson, you've got Dobson, you've got Laine, you've got Cole, you've got all these guys. Don't put them on the same power play. Spread it out. You've got Anderson, you've got Gallagher. I know those aren't the sexiest names, but those are guys who can play in front of the net capably. Stop it. I know he's handsome, but stop it. We're not doing the Josh Anderson is very handsome thing right now.
I didn't say anything. You're the one who brought it up.
That's not the point. I wasn't thinking about it at all. Don't talk to me right now. But no, I think you're actually doing yourself a disservice when you're just we got one shot at this. I think it makes a lot of sense to split those guys
You
up.
quite literally don't. You
Yeah.
quite literally don't.
And just really giving them, because guys are going to be on different nights. There's going to be a lot of that, and one night the first power play is hot, one night the second power play is hot. That's the benefit of having multiple good players, is you don't have to do this and make these kinds of insane choices, and you don't have to put other guys in a position to where they don't like the role that they're getting, because you've got a lot of talented guys who are going to want to go out there and eat on special teams. And if you're just being overly aggressive about just feeding one unit, you're wasting all the time that you spent at the bottom of the standings building up all
Yeah.
these talented players.
Yeah. What's the point? Oh no, my team has too many guys that I could use on the power play.
Right. It's just, it really is one of those things. And so, yeah, I get it. I think, if Slavkovsky's that X factor for that first line, then you leave it and you just try to figure out that second line. And maybe this season, right? The story of this season is they don't go out and they don't get a Crosby. And what it is they're just like, okay, so that first line is money, and we got to go get somebody to help out Ivan here because he needs a buddy. Like he needs a running mate. And we
Mm-hmm.
don't want to mess up that first line because that works and we know it works and there's no reason to play around with it.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's kind of still young enough. You can get away with it.
That's the thing. There's time.
There is the part of my brain that again looks at Detroit and goes, how
Oh
long
yeah.
do we wait, right?
Yeah.
Where you just
Yeah.
go, we don't want to wait too long, but we should maximize the time that we have. And maybe maybe January is where they get that we're not doing this shit. We're not doing this. I'm not wasting the
Yeah.
second half of the year. We're going to go get somebody at the deadline and see what we can make happen.
Yeah.
There are going to be players available. There are teams that are not going to do well. Like, it could be like there's conversations about, I wonder what happens with Nick Schmaltz. Like,
Mm-hmm.
again, he's not a superstar, but he's a capable player who's put up good numbers. He played with Clayton Keller, who's a good player. Like, he's going to be able to produce. Maybe that's the route you go. Maybe he's a guy you
I
go out
guess
and you get, and
the
it's just,
question is, are you willing to go with a so-so guy for your 2C while you tide yourself over for something else? Um, and I don't mean just Sidney Crosby. I mean, okay, so from my understanding and from pretty much what they've actually gone out and said clearly, this coming year was supposed to be the playoffs year. First time in the playoffs year. They're ahead of schedule 1 year. Again, there's always time, there's always a chance of regression. I
mhm.
believe that's the word I'm looking for. Um, there's always a chance, et cetera, et cetera. All those disclaimers out of the way. I think that this coming summer was always going to be the summer that they made their splash. I guess that's the question you have now. Can you look your team in the eye if you don't if there's a problem at 2C, everything else is going well,
Mhm.
but you're missing your 2C come trade deadline, can you look your team in the eye and not get someone? Like, what is it that you're saying in that moment? I think that's something that might become interesting. Again, I'm jumping a few different steps, but that's something I think about too. Like, for example, this trade deadline, could they, after the performance that Nick Suzuki put on near the trade deadline, have looked him in the eye and said, hey, we're trading away Jake Evans, one of your buddies who is such a big part of our penalty kill. And by the way, did you know at some points in the bad seasons, he was the second most played forward? It was very funny.
That's your
Nick
Derek
Suzuki
Grant
playing
right
like,
there.
yeah, Nick Suzuki, get ready to play 40 minutes a night, buddy. But like
Right.
that was a time too. It's the dark times. It's just, I think this team, something else that I think about is culture. I think this is a very important point in the culture with some new guys coming in, a lot of guys maybe having to not earn more stuff than they used to. There's a lot this season that I don't hinge everything on this season, but I do think that there is room to really fuck up. You know?
Yeah.
So, and not necessarily even on ice. There's just a lot. There's so much. I don't, that's why Kent Hughes gets paid. That's why Jeff Gordon gets paid, you
Right.
know?
Well,
That's why Marty gets paid.
this is a thing me and you talked about a bit last season. Like, this is the benefit, to your point, like of having Gordon, right? He's been around a while. He's seen a lot of things.
Mhm.
And you've got Hughes who's coming in and he's been
Including
a really
fucking the New York
good,
Rangers,
right? But that's
including the New
exactly
York
it. He
Rangers.
was with the Rangers. I think he was with Columbus before that. Like, he's been
Yeah.
around for a while. Like, he's seen things. He's got that experience. He's got the ability to kind of keep a pulse on a room and on a franchise and things like that. And then you've got Kent Hughes, who I, look, I don't know how to say like to me that was a hiring that was like, word, that's the dude we're gonna bring in to run Montreal, and he's fucking told everybody to shut up. Like it's all been
Yeah.
out there. He's been great. You know, like okay, an insane thing, but this is the part of my brain that just does stuff.
Mhm.
Kirby Dack plus the current cap space that Montreal has is about
Mhm.
9 million. Steven
Mhm.
Stamkos makes 8 million.
Mhm.
That's not, there's some questions there about his health and things like that, but he would be in a reduced role. So there's just some interesting things to talk about there. There are
I'm
two,
just hashtag asking questions.
yeah,
Cool.
yeah, but like that, that those are also the kinds of opportunities that are going to be out there, and it's going to be interesting to see how Montreal goes about trying to address them.
I think Kirby Doc really, I don't want to say centers around because I do think, I don't know what their plan is, but I imagine that they have a plan for what happens if
Yeah,
Kirby Doc
it's
doesn't.
Joe Veleno.
Because, come on now. Alex Newhook, actually. Um, Poor Newey, man. Poor guy, put in a position that he's not built for.
I,
Um, Put him on the
yeah.
penalty kill, Marty. Just do it. What was I gonna say?
He's going to be Andrew Cogliano. I really do think, which is a
You
guy who
think
was
so?
drafted to be a top six center who finds his footing as a two-way winger. Like
Mm-hmm.
Cogliano was drafted by Edmonton to be like a top six center to do a lot for them. And he got traded to Anaheim. They moved his ass to the wing immediately, and
Yeah.
he was just money. And he was just like,
Yeah.
I'm fast, I'm smart, I'm technically skilled. Like, I'm not putting up a ton of points, but if I'm the third guy on a line, that line never has a defensive problem.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like, you had him and Kessler and Silverberg, and you were just like, that is, they're not going to outscore anybody, but they're just not going to give anything up. And we can
Yeah.
just run that. I think that's kind of where New Hook is headed, and I want that for him because you just want guys to succeed. You want guys to find their footing. There's a handful of guys that everybody's like, oh, I hope they fail. But more than
Yeah.
that, for the most part, you want guys to succeed.
And I've been following him since like his Colorado days,
Right.
obviously. And
Yeah.
I really love a good speedy guy. He's nice and speedy, right? Like his sister plays is a PWHL player. He's very supportive of her. He's from Newfoundland. It's all he's got some, he's charming. He's a charming boy.
Yeah.
Uh Shockingly built, by the way. The build, if anybody wants to watch the build on Crave, uh it's an insider show, whatever. He's shirtless all the time, and he's a lot like more stacked than you think.
Sure. Yeah.
He's got the body type of the Crosby and the Suzuki, even of like small guy, like short guy, but like strong.
Yeah.
So that's neither here nor there. That was just something I came up with out of just nowhere. But yeah.
So, all right, we're gonna put a big bow on this thing and we're gonna get out of
Yes.
here. And the last question I want to ask you.
Hmm.
Okay, where does this team finish in the standings when the season ends? Are they a wild card team or can they sneak into that three spot?
I still think they're a wild card too.
Okay.
Because I anticipate things being a little bit better around them.
Hmm.
In terms of competition. Maybe the Rangers will find a way. Uh, who knows what Boston's doing at any point? Like,
Hmm.
there's a lot of wiggle room there, I think, in that division.
Yeah.
But I think it's a first wild card. I'll say that
There
first
we go.
wild
Let's go. Let's go.
card.
And that's a great step. That's progress. That's.
That's better than fighting until the literal
Exactly.
last
Exactly
game
right.
to get in.
Exactly right.
My stupid, awful children who disappoint me all the time, except when they didn't. Sorry.
No, no, no. Thank you so much for sitting down with me and talking tonight
Of
and
course.
doing this 75-part Ken Burns fucking audio documentary about the 25-26 Habs season. please tell the people where they can find you in the future, your socials, what you're doing, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, okay. So you can find me on Twitter at K_IMW. Um, sorry, something in my eye. You can always find Game Over at Game Over NHL. We are back with the first game. The Montreal Game Over Montreal will be back. We are a post game show. We are on after every single game, unless something goes terribly wrong. So hey, uh, and it's usually myself, one of Andrew Berkshire or Connor Tumulty or Mark Dumont, and we just have a lot of fun. We have fun out there. I had Steven on 2 times and we went forever. Much like today, we went forever. So yeah. Anyways, just gonna go through that again at the Game Over Network or line composition on Blue Sky, Game Over NHL or K_IMW on Twitter. And you can find us on Twitter at Game Over Network. And find me on Game Over Montreal. I'm there a lot. I'm there a lot. Even when I'm not hosting, I'm there in the chat. So I love yapping, as we found out today.
Love a yap, love a good yapping. And yeah, Game Over
Love
is
it.
great. You do a great
Yeah,
job. It was an absolute
thank you.
pleasure to be on there with you. Um, they have, you know, Avery and Mark and Andrew, and I'm a little less familiar with some of the people for like Winnipeg and Toronto and stuff like that. But
Mhm.
uh, knowing the names that I know, I have nothing but the utmost faith in the rest of that group. So, Kay, once again, thank you so, so much. Everybody else, thank you very much for giving us the time. Hopefully, you find this as interesting as I did. I think in Anaheim's perspective, we're kind of hoping that in the next 2 years, we have the year Montreal did last year.
Yeah.
That seems to kind of be what everybody's hoping for right now. And so I just thought this was an interesting conversation to have. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Eddie and I will be back soon. Like I said, Eddie had some stuff come up. We're gonna get the Atlantic preview done. Then we'll have the Pacific, and then we'll have the Ducks. A lot coming. The season starts on, I think, the 7th, for the Ducks.
Fast approaching.
Yeah,
Fast
it's coming
approaching.
up. Like, just it's gonna be a nightmare. But yeah, I'm gonna shut up now. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate you guys. Everyone have a great night. Bye.
Good night.
Put it on that beat. Go.